Hey everybody, Justin from FrugalSnobs.com. What's up, YouTube? I brought Chris with me. Say hello.
Hello.
As we record this video, today is Sunday, May 26th, 2019, and this is an inaugural video for us. So let me explain, folks. As we record this video, it is the day after All Elite Wrestling's Double or Nothing pay-per-view event from the MGM Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, I say this is an inaugural video for us, as I was talking to Christina this morning, and we've decided to create a pro wrestling playlist on our YouTube channel. We thought that would give us a new outlet. We are fans of the product that's currently out there from several different outlets, different promotions, and we thought we would add an additional playlist for everyone's listening, viewing pleasure on pro wrestling. So we'll be adding videos to this playlist as we move forward, and this is the inaugural video, post AEW Double or Nothing.
Yes.
All right, so Christina, I'm going to ask a few questions of you. We're going to keep the review pretty straightforward. I think how you just already started to giggle. I wanted a woman's take on some of this stuff, okay? So everybody out there, I'm sure you've listened to or read the dirt sheets or the reviews out there on the AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view. Sorry, I got WWE on the brain. And we'll talk about that a little bit, okay? So let me ask you something, Christina. Do you think Vince McMahon was watching this in Stanford?
Definitely.
In Stanford, Connecticut?
No question. No questions. He is.
That's right. Linda, give me another cocktail. So I think there's probably a meeting out by the pool at Vince's house today. So interesting pay-per-view. We did catch a few of the matches, including the matches on the buy-in pre-show. And we'll talk about that a little bit. And then also we did catch a few matches from the pay-per-view we wanted to talk about very quickly. So, Christina, your impressions, at least from the buy-in pre-show, what did you think of the production quality of AEW?
Needs improvement is an understatement.
You need to be careful because there's a lot of marks out there that are going to go nuts for this and say that we're crazy and that we're stupid and that independent wrestling, this is the way it should be.
You should at least have a functional feed if you're going to live stream something.
That's true. We had to look all over the web to find a functioning feed. I think we ended up finding it on YouTube on TNT's channel.
Yes.
And I think the Wrestle Talk guys had some issues as well. We also started to watch the watch along with the Wrestle Talk guys from Wrestle Ramble, and I think even Luke Owen and Ollie Davis were having problems.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, finding the proper feed to get the pay-per-view, at least so they could watch, at least not even the pay-per-view, the pre-show.
Yes.
So, in terms of the quality, I think I would agree with that. There were some hiccups, and I get that it was a live event. That's fine, too. But I think there still need to be some improvement. I'm not saying they're not going to get there, but I think AEW has a way to go. Yeah. I mean, and I was telling Christina this morning, and I think folks out there would agree with me. I mean, I've been a pro wrestling fan and a body fan in terms of like bodybuilding, fitness, that kind of thing for my entire life. Getting in shape and getting fit is probably one of the things that I think that Christina, you agree with. We're both kind of big on.
Yes. And
keeping ourselves in shape and eating right and hopefully eating as clean as possible. But I think from the AEW perspective, there were a lot of issues with just people we never heard of.
Yes.
Would you agree with that? I had a lot of issues with following a lot of the names.
Who was this person?
Exactly. Like, who?
Where are they from?
And yes, we've watched The Road to Double or Nothing. We've watched many of those episodes. You can only consume so many of them at a time, though. Obviously, there were big names on this card. And you could easily tell by the booking what the anchor matches on the card were. But to go to the buy-in pre-show, I would say it looked like a smaller ring. It looked like a 16-footer.
Yes.
And what I mean by that, if you're a fan or a mark out there, I shouldn't say a mark, but a fan, you know what I'm talking about. A 16-footer means a 16-foot by 16-foot square ring.
Yes.
Now, by comparison, World Wrestling Entertainment, the evil enemy of many people, WWE tends to use the 20-foot ring, the 20-foot by 20-foot square ring. Why? Better camera angles. You can do more in a 20-foot by 20-foot ring. You know? You can actually have tag matches that don't look like you're like basically stepping on each other.
Exactly.
Right? You can do more work in the corner. You like again, Christina was saying with the production quality, you in terms of like needs improvement. You can do more with a 20-foot ring. But I think I understand why AEW would have taken this approach for Double or Nothing. Again, I get they sold the 12,000 tickets. I think that's awesome. But I also think a 16-foot ring looks better in an arena that size.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It's understandable to use that size ring.
So before we get into the actual production of the main pay-per-view and some of the main matches, on the buy-in at least, I wanted to go through a couple of things. The over-the-budget Battle Royal, interesting, I'll say. It was really cool to see Shawn Spears, also known as Ty Dillinger, the Perfect 10, in the match. That was pretty cool.
Yes.
Glad to see that Hangman Page won the over-the-budget Battle Royal. It was kind of expected, given his situation with Pac.
Yes, or Neville.
Yes, Neville or Adrian Neville or whatever he calls himself. Pac, apparently. And the fact that Pac did not appear at this event. So it had to be written in anyway to have something positive happen for Hangman Page. It would not be fair for Hangman Adam Page. So it was pretty cool to see that. Glad to see him get a win. And also the Sammy Guevara versus
Kip Sabian.
Kip Sabian. He's a pretty cool dude.
Yeah.
From the UK. I've heard about this guy. He had some good looking performances in terms of his ring appearance and his ring awareness, that sort of thing. It was pretty cool. Saw a couple of weird things in the over the budget Battle Royal that were a little bit odd. I don't want to go into too much detail. But hopefully this will be addressed as we move closer to October and the TNT deal.
Yeah, I mean, television. Weird, at least with some of the outfits. I don't know how those guys managed to wear...
Christina. Gear.
You
can say outfit.
The masks is what really... Like, how can you fight with, like, that mask on without being, like, uber sweaty? All the paint, the dye on the beards, it's like, over the top. It was just...
I think maybe if this is what you want to do, and this is kind of your life, you make do. If that makes any sense.
It does.
You know what I mean?
But how can you fight like that?
It's an art. You know what I mean? What can I say? I mean, even though it is simulated combat, pro wrestling does take effort. It's an art. I mean, it does take choreography. It takes timing. It takes a lot of things. It's not just physical strength and quote unquote fake fighting. It takes a lot. So it was pretty cool. The buy-in was neat, interesting. 16-foot ring. I understand why they did it. I'm hoping they transition to a 20-foot ring or even make their way into an 18-foot square ring. I'm hoping they get to the 20-foot though once they go to TV at TNT. So that was pretty cool. Christina, before we get into the actual match reviews that we liked, didn't like, I said, from the pay-per-view, we're not going to review all the matches, just a few high spots for us. But you liked having the interesting entrance they had with the dual entrance with a single aisleway, but the dual Y shape.
Yeah, it's cool.
It was pretty cool. It reminds me of kind of the way they used to do some of the arena setups where they had two separate entrances, one for the faces, one for the heels, or in other words, one for the good guys, one for the bad guys, basically, for anybody who's listening to this for the first time that isn't into the wrestling lingo, so to speak. So again, 16-footer, heels, faces. Oh, I got a lot of things to say. All that lingo. Got to give people like an acronym list or a book.
Yes.
That's right.
Lessons.
That's right. Pro wrestling lesson number 1. We can put it on the channel.
Yes.
There you go. We can put it on the playlist on the channel. So it's a good idea. I'm going to do that. Anyway, getting into the actual pay-per-view, seeing the pyros, that was pretty cool. I do think that there's a couple points in the pay-per-view that I think were a little bit over the top. Looking at the Lucha Brothers versus the Young Bucks, Christina, you mentioned the AAA tag titles looked a little bit beat up, tarnished.
Yeah, it looked tarnished brass belts.
Yeah, you were kind of expecting a better quality set of titles.
I'm like, right? Oh, that's actually more tarnished than, like...
The old NXT belt. If you remember the old NXT Championship belt, when Kevin Owens introduced it on an episode of Raw against John Cena, when John Cena was still U.S. champ, I think we were looking at that, and I remember you saying something about how the NXT title looked a little bit beat up. Yeah. And they very soon after introduced a cleaned-up belt. Yes. These things take... I mean, like, for example, WWE has... Obviously, they have, quote-unquote, spares. Yeah. They do. They have multiple belts, multiple copies of the same titles. On purpose. It's... If you need a new copy of the belt, if you need a nicer version of the belt, if you need a cleaned-up version of the belt, they have auxiliary belts. Right? Does that make sense? Spares, yeah, basically. And besides, you can go to WWEshop.com, buy one right now for like $400. So there. So there. But, I mean, I'm just glad that certain things occurred where, to me, it looked like a lot of the EVPs were going to go over. Yeah, and it was like they designed it like that. Yeah, it's like, okay, the Young Bucks are going to go over. Great. Now let's see. Will Cody Rhodes go over Dustin Reynolds? Let's talk about that here in a second. And he did. And I'm thinking, okay. And then I'm thinking, okay, great. Kenny Omega's going to probably go over Chris Jericho. But
and if that would have happened, I have the perfect rebranding of their acronym of AEW. All Ego Wrestling.
I like that. I like that. So, a couple of the matches we just wanted to talk about really quickly. The Dustin Runnels versus Cody match. I could understand why there was blood in the match, but Christina, you couldn't even watch it.
I walked out of the room.
Yeah, it was too graphic.
Yes, there was blood coating Dustin Reynolds' face. It was like literally you saw him laying there and just pools of blood just pouring out of his head.
Yeah, I mean Dustin Reynolds had face paint, partial face paint, but it looked like he was just in a crimson mask.
Yeah, he couldn't even open his eyes.
Yeah, and he was going off of instinct for a lot of things. And it made really good drama for that match. I did like the Brandy Rhodes or the Brandy heel turn a little bit with the water to the face, the spear on the outside, all that other good stuff. DDP comes out, takes her away.
Yes,
I like that. And Earl Hebner, my God, Earl Hebner was the official for this match.
Yeah,
I'm disappointed. I always thought Earl was a WWE guy. Thought I saw him on TNA, and I thought I was like, oh man, he sold himself out to TNA, and now he's an AEW senior official. Ugh, I'm sorry. I'll talk about this on a separate video, folks, and if people don't like what I'm saying about this, I apologize if I offend anyone, but I don't like the concept of previous WWE talents trying to make themselves relevant elsewhere.
Yeah.
Sound a little familiar? WCW. It is.
They're WCW all over again.
We'll see what happens, but
at least with first impressions.
I mean, I get it. I think it's. I will openly admit, the fan in me, the mark in me, says it's cool. It's cool to have an alternative, and it does harken back to that old 70s, 80s style wrestling. It really does, minus Hulk Hogan. I mean, it does go back to the territory style wrestling. That's how it feels. But this match itself, way too bloody. Very graphic, and then the ending with the two of them embracing in the ring and making up with each other, and now they're going to go and face the Young Bucks. And here's where I'm curious. Since when was Cody ever going to tell anybody that he signed a match against the Young Bucks so conveniently next month in Jacksonville, Florida?
Yeah.
I never knew about this match at any point. And besides, these are his other EVP brethren, right, with AEW. So I found that a little bit interesting. I'll put it that way. So... interesting match, very bloody. It's not... I get there needs to be color. Again, another wrestling term. There needs to be color for drama. But it was a little much.
It was not tasteful.
No, I didn't care for it. The match itself in terms of drama, awesome. But the way that they got to that drama, I didn't care for it. So, before we get to the Omega Jericho match... That's right, good old Canadians from Winnipeg. Winnipegians, as Jim Ross called them. I must admit this. Bret Hart introducing the AEW Championship belt. Really? Really? I'll say this. MJF coming out and kind of breaking this up a little bit. Awesome heel.
Yes.
Great heel talent. Good heel heat. Good on the mic. But the thing is, Christina, you and I were looking. You really didn't get a good camera shot.
Of the belt.
Of the belt when Bret held it up, and you also didn't get... We looked for some stills as well. We didn't see a lot of really good stills from last night.
Everything was so pixelated and blurry,
right.
yeah.
So we're going to look for some better images, at least here for the channel, and we'll talk about it a bit more once we get into, belt analytics, so to speak, of what this new belt looks like so we can compare it. I was hoping it was going to look similar to the old NWA championship, the old big gold belt, as they called it. If you don't know what the big gold belt is, folks, just go Google it. You will find the WCW style belt of the NWA belt. It's the big gold belt. It was also the WWE World Heavyweight Championship for a while. And yeah, it's just this big gold belt. I thought it would look like the big gold belt, but I've heard, again, I've heard at least the Wrestle Ramble guys, the Wrestle Talk guys, were saying that it looks very similar to the IWGP title. So without having a clear image, we can't really compare.
Yes.
So we're going to work on that for everybody. Jericho Omega match, that's probably the other match I would say was probably awesome on the card.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yes.
the elbow, the Judas effect, I'm not necessarily as sold on it as, and Christina, you even said you weren't as sold on it as what you would have thought. The code breaker, again, I don't have explicit permission from WWE to discuss this move, but the code breaker, kind of the backstabber basically is what it's kind of somewhat called, with the double knees to the back, that, or the front of the individual, it seems like that is a more devastating move to me.
Agreed.
And then, of course, the high Boston Crab being the Walls of Jericho. Yeah, I get all that. But the Judas effect, I'm not necessarily sold on it, but we'll see where it goes. I think Chris Jericho still has all of his charisma. Still is really good on the mic. And then Jon Moxley. Ugh. Dean Ambrose. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have explicit consent to the WWE. I apologize. Basically makes his appearance in AEW. And that's really kind of what everyone was predicting. And, of course, takes out Jericho, takes out Kenny Omega, and it probably looks like it's going to be an Omega Jon Moxley feud. And then also, of course, you will have Chris Jericho competing for the AEW Championship against Hangman Adam Page.
Who knows? It could actually be the distraction while Hangman Page and Jericho go for the championship. They may actually introduce a secondary belt for those two.
Maybe. I don't know.
Belts everywhere.
That's right. AEW many belts. AEW many belts.
That's already WWE.
Yeah. Yes. I don't even want to talk about all. I mean, you might as well give the fan in the front row belt.
Yeah.
I mean,
perfect attendance belt.
That's right. You get a participation belt. That's right. Or you get an attendance belt. Here you go. Everybody gets a belt, and you get a belt, and you get a belt. Like Oprah.
Yeah.
And you get a belt, and you get a belt, and you get a belt, but you get a smaller belt because, well, you need a smaller belt. Anyway. I'll put it this way. The state of professional wrestling in larger promotions is interesting. In the end, I would say that even though I'm going to see a ton of press from folks out there that AEW Double or Nothing was awesome, it was great, it was fantastic, for what it was, I think it was a good show. For what it is compared to entertainment, I can't necessarily say that
there's room to grow.
Yeah, it's not a one-to-one kind of deal here still with WWE. I think the aims of the two promotions are different, though.
Yeah.
I really do. I do like the fact that AEW doesn't censor as much as WWE does. Like, for example, the Dustin Runnels-Cody Rhodes match, or Cody match, again, he goes by Cody, that match would have never seen the light of day.
No.
On WWE TV now. Too violent, too graphic.
Brass knuckles? Really?
Yeah. But, well, I mean, even from the blood aspect, brass knuckles you could probably see. But they would probably, adjust the camera angles, things like that. But I think the aims of the promotions are different. I mean, I do see elements of, and if folks want to disagree, okay, but I see elements of a WCW in this. I see that. I see the other people are fronting money to have spent by other people to create a wrestling product that can be monetized.
Yes.
Okay? That screams the Ted Turner thing all over again. Okay? It really does. The cons, it screams Ted Turner model. Okay? And when you look at WWE, and I'm not necessarily saying that I am purely defending Vince McMahon, but what I will say is there's a difference between handing over funds to create and monetize a wrestling product and brand and being a wrestling product and brand.
Yes.
There's a total difference, a complete and utter difference. Your stake in the game is different. Your vitality in the industry is different. And I really do see some shades of a WCW here. I really do. I mean, for example, Jon Moxley, Jonathan Good, appearing last night. I was telling Christina this morning. Who was he in WWE?
Dean Ambrose.
He was also Jonathan Moxley as well Jon Moxley prior to coming to WWE on the independent circuit. But where do you think people really know him from?
WWE.
Yes. That's my point. That's been my point for months. I understand and can respect the independents. I respect it greatly. But when you get rocket strapped in another promotion, then your contract ends and you appear in a different promotion, your fame truly came from a different place.
Yes.
That's all I'm gonna say about it. What can I say?
That's all you really can say, because basically you stole your fame from the other promotion.
Pretty much, or you're living on it.
Yeah.
You're living on that fame.
You use that promotion.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will admit there are others that did come to WWE more so from WCW at the time. For example, in '99 when Chris Jericho came over from WCW, I knew who Chris Jericho was. But did he have a different demeanor, a different packaging?
Yes.
In WWE? Yeah. Completely different packaging. So, we'll see what happens with AEW. So, and I think Christine and I also are going to check out the Bret Hart, Owen Hart brother versus brother match from WrestleMania 10. We may review that also for the channel, so stick around if you do like this particular video, folks. Make sure you subscribe to the playlist. I mean, again, this is the inaugural video, but we will be able to add additional content as we record additional videos. So
yes,
subscribe to the channel regardless. Subscribe to the channel and pick up this playlist. Subscribe to it as well. That's helpful also. And we'll be adding more content here. But again, what I'd like to do is do a comparison between the Bret Owen match at WrestleMania 10 versus a comparison with the Dustin versus Cody match at a Double or Nothing. Different venues, different circumstances, different storylines, different companies.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens with that. And by the way, folks, this week was the anniversary of the death of Owen Hart, the 20th anniversary on May 23rd, 2019 was the 20th anniversary of Owen Hart's death at Kemper Arena in Kansas City. So very tragic events, so I feel like we kind of owe this to him and his memory. So we're going to check out that match, I think, and probably add a review video here. It'll be, of course, shorter than this one. I apologize. We went a bit long, folks. But we do hope that you like what you heard. Might give you something to think about and debate about a bit. As always, please do check out the remaining videos on the channel. It helps us out. Make sure you subscribe. It does help us. If you like what you hear, what you see on the channel here, please make sure that you subscribe to the Frugal Snobs podcast. Everything you need to know is at frugalsnobs.com. Be well, never pay retail, folks. Take care of yourself and each other.